All right, so welcome back to the X Talks podcast with Automate X. This is episode 5, and today we're diving into a topic that's absolutely critical for warehouse automation, something that's often overlooked, but both me and you know that this is a very important subject. We all know safety might sound like rules and regulations, red tape, but the truth is it's the thing that drives us forward and keeps our industry going, because without it, we wouldn't be able to do what we do in the automation space. So Andrey Zhidkov is with me here from TEG Risk. So welcome, Andrey. It's a New Zealand company that specializes in machine automation and warehouse safety. Andrey specifically, he's got an incredible background in automation and safety. He's worked with some leading companies like GlidePath, Alstef, also with Daifuku, so one of the giants in the intralogistics sector. And today at TEG Risk, he's helping companies implement world-class safety processes. He's also got his CMSE safety certification, along with his functional safety, which is, some of the highest levels of recognition in the industry. Really looking forward to this chat. Obviously, a big topic, and welcome, Andrey, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, man. Your journey's been an interesting one. So you've come all the way from baggage handling and parcel sortation systems into more generic safety for all of those things. How's that been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. So I think you're also missing NZ controls.
I missed NZ controls.
Yeah,
sorry about that. Yeah.
They're the ones actually that sort of passed the way for me into safety. So
Okay.
they just hired me as a safety engineer, and then that's what they sort of started the momentum. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So that's kind of what kicked your interest into safety.
Not precisely, but there was it started at GlidePath, aka Alstef. That was that's how I started, and then and I always wanted to delve a bit more into safety, and that's what and as the controls came about, and then I just went there. And
So it was never like one of your career aspirations to jump into safety?
well, I just suppose it evolved into this, but it's so morphed into, like, slowly I was getting more and more exposed into the safety of machinery, and then
I think that's often how our careers as engineers work, right?
Yeah.
They just get adapted over time. Before you know it, we're doing something we never had planned on doing.
I didn't even know what the hell safety is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess me and you worked at the same company, GlidePath, for a while there, in a very similar role, and right now have taken quite significantly different career paths.
Well, both of us.
Yeah.
So that's so we both sort of started off as electrical engineer. Well, you're probably started off as electrical engineers, and then now I'm a safety engineer. You're marketing manager. So
yeah, it's quite interesting how things have changed over time, but. Yeah, I thought it'd be cool to get you in here for those reasons. But yeah, I guess going beyond where you've come from, where is safety at right now in the warehouse space? Where do you see safety, the level of safety that you see out there in the industry? Is it where it needs to be, or do you think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the sector?
I think it's pretty good right now. So most of this, obviously, if you look at some of the warehousing, they were built before 2008. Obviously, they used the older standards, but now then the new standards came into place, particularly for the rail, all the SRS 528, EN 528. Then now it's sort of changed. But most of if you look at it, there are some gaps there. But then if you overall, it's pretty good that especially new warehousing. So now it's been more enforced, and then people they have a health and safety officer or manager on site, and then they have a site manager, and all these processes in place. So that helps quite a bit.
How deep do you go into overall safety processes and operations? Are you kind of more at that machine level, or do you go all the way back to procedures and lockout, tag out procedures and operational processes for cleaning machinery and things like that?
Yeah, that's part of the risk assessment, obviously. You look at the limits of the machinery, you look at the operator limits, cleaning, space, environmental. These are all the parts you assess. You determine what the limits of the machinery. You speak with the operators, how they interact with the machine, and see and then you identify where the hazards are.
So you just do that with operators, or
with operators, with cleaners, with maintenance team. You see the cleaning, how often they actually clean the machinery, what the gap, if there is a packaging machine, what the gap is, if they need to assess the area quite often. So obviously you don't want to cause interruption to the process, but as well as you want to follow the SOPs and all the cleaning procedures, policies.
Is there a specific project you've done where safety has made or broken the success of the project? Can you recall anything?
So there was one, Balance Agri-Nutrients. I think
you're allowed to say their name?
Yeah. It's on
Why is
WorkSafe. Yeah. It's on WorkSafe, so it's widely available. They could just go and look it up.
Okay, that's with all safety incidents, right?
So all the safety incidents. You could also in the WorkSafe website, you could subscribe to all the news as well.
Yep.
And you keep receiving updates around whether any incidents that had happened.
Yep.
Any standards updates.
Yeah, that's by the way, if you go to that website, it's pretty crazy, right? You can see all the details on all of the accidents and incidents around New Zealand and Australia.
In Australia as well. There was a salt processing plant. They fined 800,000 Australian dollars. So that was the recent one. And then there was also the one in New South Wales as well, with bulk material handling. There was a big the pulley essentially caused arm amputation. An operator carrying out unplanned maintenance. And that's the downside of bulk material handling conveyors, because of the rundown time. It takes minutes from being stopped to fully stopped for the conveyor to stop.
Okay, and that's because they have to run the material off the conveyor belts.
That's obviously the weight and the length and
that's interesting. So people think sometimes that a stop is emergency stop. Is that kind of because obviously they're two different things, two different functions.
Yeah, process stop and emergency stop. Obviously,
emergency stop.
These are the two different.
Yeah, I saw one recently on the New Zealand WorkSafe website in Papakura for a machine where someone was cleaning it. So they weren't an operator, they weren't experienced in this machine, but they went to clean the machine and got their finger stuck and something started and they lost a finger, right? And I think the company was fined for negligence for not having a cleaning process for that machine, right?
Yeah, that's probably the other step that's important as part of your risk assessment. You involve all the relevant stakeholders, including at the design stage.
Right.
And then you look at what's available out there, but you need to ask cleaners, operators, maintenance team.
So, for example, if I had done that risk assessment on that factory, on that machine, I had the cleaner there, I had the operations manager there, I had operators there, I had the warehouse manager and the engineering manager, the electrician, maybe someone like you, and you had gone through that process, and then something had happened that caused an incident. What does that mean, for that whole process? Does someone still get prosecuted, or do WorkSafe go, okay, well, you've done what you need to do, you've got the documentation, we'll let you off? Is that how it works, or?
Well, you highlight all the hazards, propose solutions. If the company is not to use up our solutions, then they're accepting the residual risks. So that's the onus is on them.
Okay, so it could be operational
procedural. There are a lot of operational procedural, and that's where SOPs come into place.
Yeah,
a lot of procedures, policies, working around within the machinery. These are all also your residual risks. You have warning signage.
Yeah.
So that's always you cannot fully eliminate, but you can just minimize the risks. Think safe, act safe, home safe, work safe.
Yeah. Do you feel that the level of safety, I think maybe outside of warehousing, because I think to me, it seems the level in warehousing is quite good. Do you feel the level of safety in manufacturing is up to standard? Like, do you feel WorkSafe does enough in that space to ensure that people are following rules? The only reason I say is because from my point of view, like, I would walk into a lot of factories where things were very dangerous and there was no effort to install safety systems. There wasn't much we could do about it because, being an automation or integration company, you're like, well, you need to put some safety stuff here, and they see that as like, we're just trying to get work right. Do you think that's a big gap in the industry in New Zealand?
Well, it's still a work in progress, but I think there are, the right steps being taken.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did WorkSafe recently, they fined around 800,000 in penalties.
A lot of people think that safety actually like slows down an operational process, and I've seen this myself doing risk assessments in companies, and not so much with management because I think they kind of understand why it's necessary. But how do you explain to people, leaders, that this is necessary, right?
So if it slows down significantly, I would look at the solutions, whether the applied solutions are suitable for the machine, obviously, or for machinery or equipment. And then the other thing I would look at, okay, it does slow down, but then I would look at obviously implement safety in certain for certain machinery, but then if they do cause some harm to operators, then obviously the WorkSafe is going to get involved, and then they're going to introduce whether, depending on the severity of injury or fatality, then they're going to introduce whether enforceable undertaking, infringement notices. So it's going to either shut the whole plant down or part of the plant, and then they're going to do all the investigations and so forth. That's going to slow down even more. It's going to affect your production. It's going to affect your reputation and so forth.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I remember this guy was he was so annoyed that I was there to do a risk assessment. It wasn't his, it was his company that had got us in to do this risk assessment, and he was the site manager, and he was like, "Oh, you guys don't bloody know, what it means for us with all these safety things on board, like." And I try my best to navigate around that situation and be like, look, like these are the reasons we do it. Like it's ultimately there to protect them, right? But like, what would you say to someone like that? That's just like, I don't need the safety because it slows us down on what we're trying to do here.
Well, I would just say this: here is the upfront cost. This how much it's going to cost you, and then afterwards you're just going to, and then if you don't do this is going to result in this. That these are the fines, and highlighting how much it's going to cost in fines.
So showing them like real world examples of what can happen if they don't go through that. Yeah,
presenting that, providing what the consequences are, and so forth.
Is he a duty holder?
Well, there's a person conducting the business or undertaking. So that's PCBU. That's
if he's the site manager, he's ultimately got part to play in there. He's responsible.
Yeah. And then it highlights in the WorkSafe document in 2016. So it highlights all the duty holders' responsibilities, and then they would know what it actually entails.
So as a duty holder, then if something does happen on that site, he's directly responsible. Like what can happen to him in that circumstance if he's willingly neglected to install the right safety systems? What does that mean for him as a duty holder?
I think there was a recent case as well when there was an interlock there was a risk assessment being done, and then they installed an interlock, but then it was bypassed, and then it resulted in an injury, and then essentially that's it. It fell under responsibility of an electrician because they bypassed it. But then they, as a duty holder, like if you were to install those, you need to obviously do testing at suitable intervals, and then that's part of the end user requirements.
Yeah.
But if they opt out not to install it, then it's solely they accepting the residual risks.
And so this was a real situation?
Yeah.
And so what happened?
Well, there was fine involved and then the prosecution as well.
Wow. What does the prosecution entail?
I
Don't know.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But there was I think it was in the Herald, and they also posted in WorkSafe website.
In your experience, like, where do businesses often go wrong with safety in general?
I think the key one is the culture. It's like, obviously, if you involve everyone around the culture, just saying, providing, like, essentially encouraging to speak up. If you say, we're all about safety, and then in the meantime we don't encourage them, and actually doing the opposite, that's probably that's where most of the businesses go wrong.
Yeah, interesting. Is there like any reoccurring themes you see in like warehouses with like rushing automation, or like a lack of understanding of, say, the standards? Is that ever a problem in?
Well, with the warehousing, for instance, the rail one, what had happened, they just go the latest and greatest, installing the light curtains. But then if you look at the aperture sizes and so forth, there is all particular requirements, how far the hazard is, the size of the aperture. You do the risk. Most of the time, you don't actually need the light curtain, depending on
could you explain aperture?
The aperture is essentially that you have an in-feed and out-feed, and that it has some perimeter guarding, and then it has the certain, the aperture, essentially that's whether the load or the goods going into there or going out of going into the warehousing or out of the warehousing, and then they have also form of SRS and so forth. That's when you would determine how far away the hazard is, and depending on the size of the aperture, you could potentially not install any light curtains. You're not going to cause any interruptions to the processes and so forth. Whereas if you put in the light curtains everywhere, you need to a lot of muting, and that's actually most of them are actually unnecessary, depending, obviously, provided that the size of the apertures are in line with the EN 528.
Okay. Well, that's just, which standard's that?
That's the European one for the rail, for the SRS.
Oh, for SRS systems.
Yeah, and now that's the latest 3612 actually now aligns with 3612 for the union handling, union handling conveyors.
Yeah.
That's when you would apply this, like for parcel handling or any material handling, intralogistics. That's what you would apply that as well. Now it's actually in line with the 528.
Okay. What are you like with someone that's quite overwhelmed with the amount of standards? Because, like, there's a lot of standards out there. What does a company do when they are faced with, like, having to comply, but just it's too much? There's too many standards. They don't know where to go. They don't know which ones to comply to. Like, you've got Australia, New Zealand standards. You've got ISOs. You've got IEC standards. Like, how does someone decipher what standards to use and which ones are right for them, which ones aren't?
Well, like yourself, most of your work is in warehousing, so you probably have a lot of warehousing standards. Like other companies, maybe they go to some networking event and then they engage with other people like within the same field, and then they can actually engage and ask them what standard do you apply, what's the particular examples particular guiding you employ, and so forth. That's what I would look at.
Yeah, that's good. I think I do remember at times, like, just in certain parts of my journey when I was doing safety engineering, being a little bit overwhelmed with which standard to go to, because some machines, they can have hydraulics, they can have pneumatics, they can have conveyors, they can, as part of a machine, they fall into, the machine safety standards. They have electrical equipment. So there's like all these things, and, it's quite a task to bring together them all. Like, obviously everything's not inside that one machine safety standard, and like for the likes of hydraulics, you've got to go to another document, and then there's like this crossover with information where you'll have the same thing in two different documents. Yeah. What's have you experienced it yourself?
Yeah, certainly. But that's the first thing you start off with is a risk assessment. Start off with the risk assessment, and then you start dissecting, going, okay, determine limits of the machinery, what equipment is involved.
Yeah.
If you're unsure of something, you can actually ask, even post on LinkedIn and ask, this is the machinery we deal with, any particular standard we could utilize. This is, and then you look for the Type C standard. That's obviously the first course of action, and then
And then I guess a company does that, right? And now they have to pay for the standards. Like, is that another potential roadblock for small businesses, especially?
Yeah, that's the best website you can obtain the standards is from Estonian standards.
Oh yeah, I know this technique.
Yeah, that's it's still legal. You can because most of the Australian, New Zealand ones is a direct adoption of of European ISO standard,
Right. Yep.
or IEC, like 1204 is an IEC standard. But then if you go to Estonian, you can actually purchase the standards.
So what Andrey is referring to there is a little loophole where I think it's not just Estonia. There's another country.
Estonia.
It's Estonia. There's a little loophole where you can buy the exact same standards through the Estonian website. Basically, get a huge discount through buying the standards through the Estonian website, which I may or may not have done in the past. Why is that?
Well, that's the part of European Union, and I guess that's how it is. I don't know.
So the Estonian online standard sales must be the highest in the world, right?
Yes. Everyone purchases it. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy loophole, but I don't know. Whatever. Like if someone's using a loophole to make their machines safer, then that's great, right?
Yeah. So you just go to New Zealand standards or Australian standards, check what the direct adoption is, and you go to Estonian standard and purchase the European equivalent of Australian, New Zealand ones.
So with the adoption, like, how does that work? So you're saying that, say, AS 4024 is referencing European standards?
Yeah.
And how is that?
It's the sort of governance, and then they'll look at the European standards and then looking at whether they could be utilized for Australian, New Zealand market.
Yeah, okay. So are our standards following mostly European, or some from America? Or
mostly European.
Mostly European.
With the exceptions of, obviously, that AS/NZS 3000 wiring rules.
Is that because Europe is more advanced? Like,
well, they have their committees and they have machine directives, and so they all obviously they have. They've been in this industry for longer than Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. So, I guess looking like forward, right? Automation's moving so fast. Like, do you see that rapid growth in automation making it more difficult to implement safety systems? Like, do you ever find like there's a new piece of technology and they almost like don't fall into any sub bracket of standard?
Well, there was the robotic standard, 10.4 something that is actually getting a makeover because it's been such a rapid change. And then I think the previous version revision was 2011. Now all the standards are now is being gradually updated and revised actually. So that's what overall it's just the technology as well. The technology already been implemented, but the standards now are catching on with the rest. Even now with the interlocks as well. Now they've introduced Type 5, which are the trap keys. Okay. The latest interlocks. Before it was just only 4 types. Yeah. Obviously mechanical non-coded.
Obviously.
Only mechanical non-coded.
Yeah.
And then mechanical coded, which is the TAN switch. Mechanical non-coded will be CAM switch. Non-contact uncoded and non-contact coded. These are the only 4 types before, and now it's the 5th one. The trap key's been added. Okay,
yeah, interesting. So, what do you do in the case where the technology is faster than the standards? Like in your case,
I just look at the state of the art. That's what it says in safe use of machinery from WorkSafe. They always allude to using the state-of-the-art technology, so that's what I would look at in particular.
And so you just ensure that the machine or whatever the installation was is built to the best of your knowledge in terms of safety and
you would look at the mission time and you see like, oh, this equipment will be suitable for the environment. So you look at the environment and your hygiene requirements and install a possibility for defeat, foreseeable misuse. These are all like criteria you would consider.
And so that, I guess, just comes back to your initial risk assessment, right?
Yes.
Which I think is the most important part of the risk assessment process.
With that of safety of machinery.
Yeah, of safety of machinery. So what is that? Like, this is something we would have to really sell to, not sell to sell, but this would be something we would always have to get in our clients' heads, right? It's all of those processes you go through, the initial consultation and then the risk assessment and then the SRS and then, like, what is that process?
Like similar to functional description. So you go and describe what the equipment does and interface and so forth. That's part of the, essentially quite similar to, so you go risk assessment, which entails limits of the machinery. Then you go hazard identification, risk estimation, risk evaluation, risk reduction, and then residual risk. That's what you go through this 3-step iterative method. And then it follows on with safety requirement specification. So that's what you provide all the criteria that the system needs to meet, particularly around the lecture-sensitive protective equipment. And then you go to safe system design, and then validation verification. That's the last part.
Validation and verification.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What's really interesting to me is that it's not that clear that that's the process in a lot of the documentation that you see online. Like for us, I guess, as experts, we kind of know what we need to do, but I don't think that those steps are that clear to someone that's new to, machine safety.
You could open the document from safe use of machine from WorkSafe, and actually it shows the workflow, the flow diagram.
Okay.
And then it highlights where the hazard identification and then all the stakeholders involved in this, and it actually all mapped out for you. You just follow through whatever is described in the safe use of machine and from WorkSafe website.
That's a WorkSafe document, right?
Yeah,
yes, yeah. I have seen that one. I think that's a good one to share.
To start off with.
So that's where, like, you would send a client that's a little bit green.
Yeah, correct.
On what they need to do. And you send that document specifically,
I
others?
just usually go through the process and describe what it entails, and then
Yeah. Have you ever walked into a warehouse and they've got quite a bad level of safety and you've had to walk out because they don't want to necessarily do the right level of safety required?
Well, maybe in the past. Right now, actually, when I walk into any site, they just want to actually bring it up to standard. Yeah. Because hence we're getting involved.
Yeah, they've engaged you because they want things to improve, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So what do you think warehouses look like 10 years from now in safety and in terms of automation?
All right. I think there'll be far less interruptions to the process. I think that the technology evolves so much nowadays. Obviously, you have a lot of the vision cameras. So there are a lot of machineries now come with the vision camera as well. So you can actually detect your fingers or anything. So that's the other thing.
Okay, so it's like vision cameras with onboard safety?
Not sure about the performance levels, but it does provide some form of alerting as well. Even the safety scanners as well. You can also map out the zoning, whether it's a warning zone, danger zone. So that provides a bit clear visibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I often think about where automation will be 10 years from now. It's kind of hard to imagine because of how far it's come in the last 10 years. So I guess we'll find out. But it's interesting to think about. So for people that don't live in our world, or your world, probably more to the point now, what do the certifications mean? So CMSE and functional safety, what does that mean, and why is that such an important part of what you do?
I keep referring to safe use of machinery, but it's all around being a competent person. So if for any risk assessments, ideally that the WorkSafe or any legislators to look at someone who's competent, look at someone who's got CMSE at least, or had some form of exposure to safety of machinery. So CMSC is a certified machine safety expert. So that's part of as for your risk assessments. So there's a certified functional safety application expert. That's the.
I haven't done the functional safety side of things, but I understand it's quite a big step up from CMSC, right?
It's a huge step up.
Because
you get essentially involved in all this nitty-gritty stuff. You do all the proper calculations.
Yeah.
And then that's how you would assess the equipment and yeah.
And is there a certain responsibility for you as a safety engineer to make sure that they follow those operational procedures, or you just make sure that they're done, they're there, that they understand them, and then you kind of move on?
That's essentially our involvement is. Yep. But then obviously it comes down to training of the operators.
At some point, that's the responsibility of the company, right?
There is that's true. That's why 3610, the conveyor standards, they highlight European standards. They focus a lot on machine manufacturers, whereas the 3610, that's essentially the mining companies. They pay to the committees or the governance in Australia to create these standards. There is a lot of requirements for the end users to ensure that the equipment functions correctly, carrying out usual inspections.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very true. Do you have any practical advice for, say, an operator that's working on a machine and they know it's not safe, but what does someone in that situation do?
Highlight this is the hazard. I'm aware of this hazard, but if someone else step in and then essentially be exposed to the hazard, they may not have the same amount of experience.
Yeah.
So that's the key. You look at carrying out a risk assessment and providing the optimal solution for the risk reduction.
What's the weirdest or strangest safety issue you've ever come across? You have one?
I think the weirdest one you see a lot, that the safety scanners, they use the tape. They tape up the safety scanners.
Well, so they are on the actual safety scanner?
Yeah.
To block
Really? Yeah, that's one of them.
Oh, I haven't seen that. And that's and what does that do? That stops that zone from working?
They essentially can walk in without interrupting the system. That's the biggest. That's the bypass. Well, the fit.
Yeah. And people do that as a temporary measure and then just leave it there?
Temporary measure, and then they walk. Something happens, and they walk in, and you can see actually that they remove the scotch tape, but you can see that actually the glue is still there, or damage to the lens.
Say you're putting a big automation system in a warehouse. Have you seen the cases where you're putting the system in, and during that commissioning phase, there's not the safety systems there because you're installing them, but some of the equipment's operational? Do you work through a bit of a plan for that, or how do you work around that? I feel like there's a lot of hazards during that period. What do you do to get around that for a company?
During commissioning stage only. Yeah.
During commissioning, yeah.
Or you come up with site-specific safety plan, and that's when you would follow that as part of your commissioning plan. That's what I would use, at least for that particular instance.
So I've got an interesting question here. What do you think is more dangerous, an outdated manual process or a poorly implemented automated process?
The latter.
The latter. A poorly implemented automated system?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think I'd have to agree with that one. There's a lot more that can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to tell a client to shut a machine down before?
In the past, yes.
Yeah.
There was a direct import from overseas, and then the machine wasn't compliant to the latest standards, and then there was so much wrong with the machinery.
Okay, it's interesting. I've seen this a few times with overseas machinery. One specific machine was we got asked to do a risk assessment on it, and let's just say the client didn't want to pay for the whole safety process because they thought it was too much. But it was exactly that, right? What do you do in that situation? Is there, I know like with electrical standards, if you see, in fact, I can't remember what they call this person, but there's someone in the Act or the regulations that they call it a secretary, that's right. You can basically notify the secretary if you see something electrically unsafe. In fact, as an electrician in New Zealand and Australia, you are required to let the secretary know if you see some bad workmanship. Is there something like that in the machine safety world?
To be honest, don't know. But you would highlight what the residual risks, essentially.
But there's nothing like
there's nothing like
that.
There's nothing like that.
Yeah, interesting. Do you think that would help? Like, do you think that would bring a level of safety up in New Zealand, Australia, in factories and warehouses?
You also don't want to just... Because a lot of companies are actually taking the right steps in mitigating risks, but then it takes time. But you just highlight what the residual risks are. If they're willing to accept, then the onus is on them. So
but what if like the companies, like what if the owner's real arrogant? He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too much money.
Well, they're accepting full all the residual risks. Because we're providing this so far as reasonably practicable solutions.
Yeah.
And then there is a whole chart you can see like what each measure, what actually brings your acceptable risk.
So like over a period of, 20 years, he might get away with not having to spend any money on his safety equipment. Whereas the equivalent business who's dedicated and willing to spend the money to keep their staff safe and their machinery safe, he's spending a lot more. Oh, I said he or she is spending a lot more money. They, them.
They, them. Well, that's also, but the operators, they'll feel comfortable actually working with within dangerous machinery. So that's probably also.
So it's not just a financial...
It's not the financials, yeah. So you would...
Yeah, okay. There's other benefits there.
Other benefits, so you would look at... You also want to get home safe, so why would you want to work near the dangerous machinery?
So what do I do when I see a dangerous installation and the owner of the system doesn't want to do anything about it? I just tell them...
You just say, these are the risks. If you're willing to accept them, then by all means...
And walk away.
Yeah, just walk away. There's not much you can do.
Yeah, just a real arrogance to not spend money on safety, and I know it's they're leaving staff in a really, really difficult spot with unsafe machines. So, just wanted to know your opinion on that.
There's not much you could do at that point. So
yeah. Do you see a lot of difference in safety culture between New Zealand and other countries, specifically maybe Australia?
I think New Zealand is pretty good actually. So to what I've seen, to date, what I've seen, actually New Zealand, they're taking the right steps. Australia as well, but I think New Zealand actually, it's been a massive leap in the past 10 years. So yeah.
That's good to hear. Do you see any differences in the sectors, so between manufacturing and warehousing, for example?
Just the same standards. Everyone just applies the same standards. There's not much different.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. Well, I guess we're kind of coming to the end of the session. One thing, just to wrap things up, that I usually ask some of our past guests is... And this is a personal thing. It could be something in your work life or your personal life. But if you could automate one thing completely, what would that be for you?
Hang on, let me just think.
It could be like...
I guess the note taking, I would probably automate this. That's the one. Because you walk around, it take a lot of notes. And then if you could have some... Obviously,
Wait, is this like while you're on site? Or
while you're on site, you walk in, you have a microphone. Suppose you have earmuffs with the microphone, and then you're walking around, and they're actually dictating, saying, here is a hazard, here is the head tail, in-feed, out-feed, discharge. You would look at it, and you just outline what the hazards are, and that's probably I would automate that part of it.
Oh yeah, and then you go back to the office and you've got this big
consolidated list of all the notes.
Oh yeah, very interesting. I feel like there's something out there for that.
There is, but then you need to
buy it.
Incorporate it. Yeah, it's like with the standards. Unless there is like Estonian
an Estonian note taker where you get a discount.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll find that loophole. But thanks, Andrey, for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it. I think like the discussion around safety is extremely important, and one that I know as a business we keep at the forefront, and I'm sure obviously you guys do too, doing what you do. And TEG Risk are really, doing some good work around New Zealand in that space. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for sharing all your expertise with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate.